Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, the best damn podcast for the best damn football team. I am your host, the Football Grump, and with me as always is Mike, the Cranky Fan. Mike, the Giants are 6-1. They defeated the Jaguars 23-17, and you and I were not in sunny Florida for this one.
Grump, we've been saying now for 5 years, the best damn football team. Is this the first time we can actually say that might possibly be true? We're 6-1.
Yeah, I mean,
these aren't fluky wins.
There are only two teams with technically better records. I don't know if Minnesota has more division wins than us, but they're 6-1, and the Eagles are 6-0.
Yeah, and we're not backing into these wins. We're not, miracle winning these games. We are winning these games in fourth quarters. We are playing 60 minutes. Dare I say, we're a good team, and I don't remember what that feeling feels like. And I like it a lot.
It's gonna be different, man. And you guys are gonna start seeing a grumpier Grump because now I can actually start grading things, and it's gonna start this week. There'll be a little taste of it, but I can be a little bit more honest on what I expect from a professional football team. But it has been a really long time. The bar has been really low, and at the beginning of this season, it did kind of feel like I'm just gonna enjoy the ride. It doesn't really matter. The season doesn't mean anything, and it still doesn't mean anything because this is a brand new regime taking what they were handed, and they're just running with it. But this is an actual good team. This is a good team that has now won in several different scenarios. They have won the home game. They have won some conference games. They won games against good quarterbacks. They've won games in hostile environments. They've won them in neutral grounds. And, Aaron Rodgers is... Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a big-time passing offense. Lamar Jackson's the big-time running offense. This was kind of the balanced offense. And all of those games, they've come back and won. They've hung around. They've won a little bit more decisively, less decisively. But they've won in all those different scenarios. The only thing they haven't won is the primetime game.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that doesn't have the talent level of some of the elite teams in this league, but the talent that is playing well. It's playing smart. It's playing clean. And we said it last week's show also. If you can play smart and clean, you close the gap between the teams that might have more talent than you in this league. I mean, this isn't Alabama versus Southern Louisiana. These are 32 teams in this league where the talent from the best team and to the worst team is not that great. Every week we're seeing these insane upsets. The league is more random and it's closer than it's ever been. And the talent deficiencies that we're having to play with due to lack of depth, the injuries that are creeping up, it's being mitigated by the fact that we're not having stupid penalties for the most part. We're not, having to call timeouts because guys aren't in the right position. The turnovers are keeping to a minimum. These are the things that keep us close. And you sprinkle in good preparation by this coaching staff, good schemes, good play calling, and good execution. We're 6-1.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head the last true turnover they had.
Other than like a Hail Mary at the end of the half?
Yeah. Like a bullshit one like that. Yeah, I can't.
Just the fact that we have to kind of rack our brains.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that it's like a thought, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, this was a huge game for them to win. This is, on paper, would you agree that Jacksonville's roster looks further along than the Giants roster?
I'd say so. I mean, watching this team, it's like they're definitely a team I could be concerned about in the next couple of years. Like the foundation is there. They have the quarterback. I mean, I've been a Trevor Lawrence fan since recruiting, watching him. I know Florida sniffed around for him. We never really had a shot for him, but this guy's a player. And, and Etienne is a good running back. These are the defensive linemen are good. This team is going to be good. They just don't have, the depth and all the pieces yet.
Yeah, I would agree. And they went out and they got some flashy free agents for Trevor Lawrence to be a little bit more successful with. And
Hmm.
you know, my thing for this is that they are not like when you worry about. I mean, to a certain extent, with the Packers, you worry about everything on their offense, right? Whether it be the run game that they have going for them or Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball, but just generally speaking with them, I'm just more worried about the offense only. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And
Hmm.
then, when you play the Baltimore Ravens, you're really worried about stopping Lamar Jackson, stopping the running game. It's easy to make those teams a little bit more one-dimensional and then play to your advantages and split that open. It's not easy to do that with this team. I mean, like, what is the one thing you want to do? I mean, we discussed it. The best case scenario was to put the ball in the hands of a young quarterback that's in a new offense, but we're talking about the first overall pick. Well, this is like the next whiz kid.
Hmm.
So it's like if that's the best we've got, that's not really the greatest game plan. Like that's going to come down to a little bit of scheming and some guys just playing better. So this was a tough game matchup wise for us. There was just nothing for us to split open and exploit. They're just a balanced team,
Hmm.
and they won this game. It kept me to a heart attack, but it didn't need to be. That didn't need to happen.
Hmm.
So,
Well, so we're going to talk about that too when we get to
yeah,
starts and farts.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, really, I couldn't. I'm super elated having won that game. I felt very good with, like shutting that game off my TV. I don't know how you did. That feel like a no, just another day at the office kind of win?
Oh no, it was very. I mean, it came down to a play. When you can look back at the end of a season or even a couple of years and remember a specific play that won you a game, that's pretty exciting. And that's going to come down to the Fabian Moreau stop on fourth down. Like just stop the guy short. I mean, he gets out of that tackle, the game is over. They lose, and the trajectory of this season can completely change. Certainly, the opinion of the Giants, the morale of this team. They have to go back. They had to go from Jacksonville back to New Jersey and out to the West Coast. You have a little hop in your step when you win that game. If you lose a game like that, you know it changes your thought pattern for the week. So I I just was my first reaction was just a sense of relief. Like, thank God we didn't lose that. And then, you know, joy after it. And then the realization that, holy shit, we're 6-1 and not a fluky 6-1.
Yeah, no, none of that game felt fluky. If anything, it actually felt like they were getting hosed down the line. Um,
It didn't feel fluky. It felt like in a season where it's how the hell are they 4-1 and 5-1? How the hell is a team that loses two offensive linemen still being able to run the ball the way they have, control clock, do the things exactly what they wanted to do on offense without missing a beat? That's that's not fluky. That's just more into the world of the unexplained, and that's what this
dude,
team is this year, unexplained.
it's insane, and that's a huge point that I do want to bring up when we get to the offense particularly. But right there, nail on the head. It really worried me that Ben Bredesen went down, then Evan Neal went down. I mean, this is how it happened: drive 2 of the game, drive 3 a game, and drive 4 of the game. That's how all 3 went down. They're by the way, they are both going to be gone for quite a bit. Ben Bredesen just generally is marked with a knee injury. He's being listed as week to week. Brian Dable's track record on week to week is closer to will it be this month? So I
Mm-hmm.
have no idea what that's going to be like. Evan Neal has a grade 2 MCL sprain. He's in a brace. He said, I'll be all right. I'm thinking at best in 3 weeks, probably, who knows? He's a really, really big guy. So
And
a lateral thing for a knee is a little, I
and
don't know.
being 6-1 in the first year of a rebuild presents scenarios and problems which you wouldn't have been thinking about 5 weeks ago. You know, 5 weeks ago, if this would have happened to Evan Neal, it would have been like, rest him. He's one of the future pillars of this franchise. Don't bring him back too soon until he's 100% ready. But now all of a sudden we're 6-1, and we're going to talk about the P word in a couple of minutes. And when do you bring him back? Do you bring him back before he's 150% ready, or, you know, are you trying to get the most juice out of each squeeze on this team? So it's going to be interesting how some of these decisions are going to be, or how much they have to deviate tactically from, week to week as part of their master plan to rebuild this team.
Worse yet, Daniel Bellinger got poked in the eye. I didn't really know what to make of that when it happened. Sometimes that's nothing. Sometimes it's a lot. I've never seen it be like super duper significant before, but
I've never seen anybody hop onto a cart.
yeah, no, I mean it looked bad. I mean, punching the ground and shit. I had a bad feeling. It quote looked terrible. He has an eye socket / septum fracture, and he may need surgery. I don't know anything about the vision if that's affected, but that sucks. Like really,
It's just
Daniel
a scary
Bellinger
thing.
too.
If we're worrying about concussions and player safety, the eye socket is so close to the brain. It's so close to the nasal passage. It's so close to your eye. That's frightening.
Yeah, I actually thought he was. I thought that he had like. I don't know. I thought he got his bell wrong. Is kind of what I thought.
Hmm.
Um,
But then when I saw him, like I said, hop onto the cart, like that doesn't sound like something has a concussion. That's something else going on.
oh yeah, no. I mean, like they showed the replay. You could see Devin Lloyd's hand just kind of grazed. I mean, it's just whatever. It just happened. Just sucks.
Yeah.
So speaking of injuries, this team is playing without basically 2 draft classes. We were just kind of talking before the episode. This year's draft class alone, all but 2 have sustained injuries that was like multiple weeks. From Thibodeau all the way to Beavers, every single one with the exception of Izudu and McFadden suffered multi-week injuries. And Evan Neal and Daniel Bellinger both adding to that list this week. And then last year's draft class too.
Yeah, last year, I know Bobby Skinner, he tweeted on a couple days ago. If you go through the list, Kadarius Toney missed 4 games. Azeez Ojulari's missed 5 games in an injured reserve. Aaron Robinson missed 4 games and is on IR. Ellerson Smith, IR since training camp. Gary Brightwell is active, had a touchdown a couple weeks ago. Rodarius Williams, injured reserve since camp. I mean, it's hard to rebuild with the pieces you're rebuilding with are not available. It makes it even more incredible how this
exactly. It just speaks even more to how well this team is playing right now. So
yeah.
When we talk about this now, I want to get into the offense here. The first thing we have to talk about is Daniel Jones in this game, right?
We do.
All right, so here's the thing. We're going to talk about Daniel Jones and his future with this team. We're just going to save it for the bye week. It's in like literally 1.5 weeks from this episode we'll talk about it. But I don't want to do that yet. I don't want to jump the gun on that because I kind of want to think about it a lot. I want to gather a lot of stats. I kind of want to look at things. And then I'll have an intelligent conversation about it. But we will talk about him in this game because this was a different DJ, right? Well, first of all, first star of this game, I'm going to hand out a star to you, the Cranky fan, for your bold prediction being 100% correct.
I just felt before the game, thinking about it, where there's going to have to be a lot of improvisation by him. I just thought that, I thought the pass rush on the outside was going to be a problem. Now I didn't think it would be like all designed runs for 100 yards. I thought he would just, the way his brain has been this year and the maturity he's showing in the decision making, I thought there'd be opportunity for lanes for him to run. And he didn't just stumble onto 100 yards. He would have had far more. He had that one run where he tripped, which could have gone for probably 30, 40 yards after. So he easily would have had over 100 yards. So, I wouldn't predict that I think it was the first time he ever had 100 yards in his career, but it just seemed to be the type of week where, they're gonna rely on his legs as an added weapon, and he was very very smart when he took off and ran, and yeah, it was a huge key to the game. He gets a star for me for the game just for his overall performance.
Oh yeah, he gets a start. So the 24-yard run was the one like passing scramble. That was the one where he dropped back and then there was just a wide open lane and he just took off and
Right.
he didn't really he kind of was like falling the whole time. He like split two tacklers and just was kind of running sideways and couldn't quite get his hips forward again without his feet going out.
Mm-hmm.
He just kind of stumbled through that. He runs a little too tall through that shit sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he played an outstanding fucking game. This whole offense, I thought, played really, really, really well. I know, like, the results weren't there on a down-by-down basis, but...
Who cares?
I mean, like, it usually isn't. And I know it's just the Jaguars, but... First of all, consider the fact that we said in the second drive, they lost Ben Bredesen. The third drive, they lost Evan Neal. And the fourth drive of the game, they lost Daniel Bellinger. So they lost 3 starters on 3 back-to-back drives, all in the first half. So that means that when they did their big comeback, that's with 3 starters replaced.
Yeah.
So that's like the majority of their yards pickup. Although yards, they didn't do so well in the first half, but they did have decent time of possession. But it just didn't feel like more of a regular NFL offense, especially out the gate, the way they started throwing the ball to start the game.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't have 1 3 and out the entire game. Think about that. This offense, and by the way, as we're recording this, the Zappy experiment for New England is just, it was exciting for about 30 seconds. He's thrown 2 picks since we started recording. So much for that. But yeah, back to your point. It feels like it's a regular offense considering there are nobody to throw to. And now with Bredesen gone, we saw Daniel Jones, who's normally cool, calm, and collective, screaming at his receivers to catch the ball. When he loses his cool with these guys, the limited weapons he's working with right now. And yet, somehow, they're moving the chains. And against a team like Jacksonville, you have to have time possession. You want to wear that defense down, that pass rush down. And again, don't look at the numbers. Don't watch every play. Just when you get to the fourth quarter, you see they've done their job. It is the most amazing sleight of hand team I've seen in almost 40 years of watching football.
So, Daniel Jones showing emotion is something where we saw this fire from him in his debut, right? He kind of had, like, obviously big energy. That was a huge comeback win that he engineered against Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. That's got to be a huge monumental moment for a guy in his first game, no matter what, right? And then
sure,
I think I actually said it only a couple weeks ago, where someone in the huddle said that Daniel Jones was like, "Let's go down and score this motherfucker," or something like that. And they were like, "Every time DJ curses, something good happens," or something like that. No, but that I was joking at the time, but like, this is maybe it. Like, maybe this is like the moment where DJ is taking a team. Like, now this is his team. This is him taking control, telling his guys what to do. I mean, like, I know he does that, but like, there's like a going through the motions. It's part of the job. Like, okay, yeah, come on, we got to go do this thing, and let's meet up in the off season and we'll throw. But like, maybe this is him really taking the team. Like, this is my team. I'm gonna make this work.
Well, let's think about it. I mean, in his 5th year, this is the first time it's really been his team. Right? I mean, this is the first time that an offense has been tailored around him. It's the first time we haven't had, and I don't want to hear these guys say they don't read social media and they don't read what the media says. They hear it. And he's been hearing really since the day he was drafted, that wasn't a good draft pick. Oh, all the jokes about him, the assumption that he was going to be gone.
He got booed at Yankee Stadium to throw out the first pitch.
Exactly. So
there's no way that you miss that.
The entire time he's been here, he's had to look over his shoulders at, the criticisms and look in front of him at the most likely he would not have a job with this team once his contract is up. For the time being, and that might change tomorrow, but for right now, all of that noise is kind of gone. They've taken an offense. They saw what he does best. They've tailored it to what he can do, his strengths. They tailored it some more to the limitations of what the rest of this offense can do and can't do. And they've finally, a coaching staff has put Daniel Jones in the best position to succeed. And I think when all that stuff is behind you and all the noise goes away, you start to develop confidence. You start to play well, you develop more confidence. And your teammates, they respect him. They see what he's gone through. They see that he works hard. They see that he's tough. They see all of these things. And you don't have to be a rah-rah guy. Having Tom Brady giving these, fiery speeches all the time and, throwing laptops and acting like an asshole. You don't have to be that to be a leader. I think he's finally comfortable in his own skin that this is his team for right now. And it's showing.
Absolutely. That was funny. Yeah, the whole thing was great. That was perfect. I thought it was really interesting. It wasn't just him yelling at whatever, getting emotional, but it was like also exchanges on the sidelines with Dable. It seems like the two of them really kind of have, I don't know, something, and it feels like Dable knows that he unlocked something. Like something just happened. Like that is not a in this game kind of thing. I mean, maybe it's going to turn off a game here or there as guys have moments, and some days you're on, sometimes you're not. But maybe
that's the great coaching.
It might have been it. Like Dable may have unlocked the thing that was just waiting to be opened there.
I mean, that's what made Bill Parcells great. And I'm not making the Dable to Parcells comparison. I'm saying that Bill Parcells knew how to unlock the dragon out of each of his players. And he knew that it wasn't one size fits all how to motivate guys. He learned his players. He knew how to handle LT versus how to handle Phil Simms. And you saw it on the sidelines that, it doesn't mean it was always rosy. There was, back and forth, but at the end of the day, he was trying to get the best out of his players. And if this is an example, in year one, week 7, what Brian Dable can do, with inheriting a roster that probably not the roster they really want to go with going forward, although maybe some pieces might last longer than we originally thought. Wait till he has his guys here. This year is still ice. It's still a gift from the gods, and it's great. But, I'm still more excited about this team, what's going to happen in the next couple of years.
Well, so is everybody else, but we're saving that for the bye week one. But I know. I'm just saying, let's keep it here. So this is the team we've got, and if this is DJ's team that he's putting on his back, and this is what they're rolling with this year. They're at 6-1. They've beaten most kinds of teams there are out there. It's not unreasonable to be thinking playoffs. Strictly by record, they have to kind of fall on their face, which absolutely could still happen. But they'd have to fall on their face at this point to not make the playoffs. They're currently like in third place in the entire conference. So it's at this rate, it is going to happen. So it's time to start thinking. Well, I mean, we're just wondering, like, what do we expect? Does DJ rise to the occasion in playoffs? Like, is he a clutch performer guy? Does he step up, or is prime time and that sort of thing still shaky for him, or is he just even keel? You think, and it just depends on everything else around him. Does everybody else shatter?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could start at the top with this. It's like, let's talk about the team in general. I mean, let's change the narrative around here from, is this team for real, to how good is this team? I mean, we talked about 2 years ago the Giants were potentially going to be in the playoffs, but not be a playoff team. So let's start with that, Grump. Do you feel that this team is a playoff team, or just a team that's going to get into the playoffs?
I think this is a playoff team. Well, I mean, I don't know. That's not usually how I check teams by like the middle of the season. It's usually there's contenders, playoff teams, and then those like fringy ones.
Let's say if the season ended today. This is Sunday was it was week 17. We're going to the playoffs next week. How do you feel about this team? Is this a team that's just
so here's the thing. I think they have enough talent and they know their talent enough to coach them through any one game against most teams. I think that obviously some games are going to be harder than others, but it's clear that they can coach their way with their talent past playoff caliber teams. So I don't know if they're in 10 games, in 10 tries against the same team, the same playoff team, if they're going to win 9 of those times or just 1. But I think that they come prepared enough that performing in the playoffs, I think this coaching staff can get this talent level to win almost any game. I really do think that. I'm not really speaking to the construction of this roster or where this franchise is. I think
just right now.
Yeah, snapshot. Just right now. They have already played themselves into a playoff situation, and I think that they are good enough coaches and talent level to win any one game that they have to get prepared for. Mm-hmm. Right? Does that not feel like a pretty honest assessment right there?
I think so. I think exactly. And I think also the NFC is not the same NFC that we've been used to. I think it's pretty crappy, to be very honest. I don't think there's really any elite teams in this conference at all. Like, who really scares you in this conference? I mean,
I think the Rams still can put up lots of points pretty quickly.
They could be, but they're not playing great.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if Minnesota scares me, only because I haven't really watched any of, like, they're clearly ripping shit up. I haven't watched any of it.
I mean, Dallas, they're okay.
The Eagles definitely scare me. We certainly don't match up with that roster well, but
okay, yeah, that's one. But I mean, if you can cut down the number of teams you have to deal with and it gets down to one, we've seen it in Giant history. We've seen it where they played teams in the playoffs, and whether it was Buffalo in Super Bowl 25, the undefeated Patriot team, that if they're well coached and they play a great game, they can beat these teams. We think we have the well coached part right now. Can this team play, for a team that's playing at the maximum level of what their talent is now, can they do it again against the most elite teams in this league? I think it's possible. I think it's probably unlikely, but it's possible.
If we're going to say it into this year's terms, I would say that I could see them losing the first game, just not being good enough. I could also see them winning all the way up to the NFC Championship.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like I don't see them winning that game. I just don't. But I all of this is just kind of, they have that kind of it about them. Mm-hmm. Teams haven't quite figured out what to do against them, clearly. So yeah, that's just kind of how I feel. Do you feel that home field plays any advantage here? They've played a lot of games at home to start the year. Their only loss has been at home, though.
The only loss has been at home. I mean, the game in London was certainly not a home game. That was definitely felt like a road game. I know there was a lot of Giant fans in Jacksonville, but that's still a road game. You still have to
fly. It's also humid as shit.
Yeah,
they had to bring
you're going
out the
out of your normal
shades and
routine. You have to go down there. You have to fly back. You got to turn around and get ready to go to Seattle. And I also don't think home field, with some exceptions, your Kansas Cities, your Buffaloes, I think in the StubHub era, I don't think the impact, and in these newer stadiums, home field is as critical as it used to be.
Yeah, but in playoff time, you don't think?
Well, also, here's another thing. I think the way this team is playing and how they built this offense, I think it can be pretty successful in cold weather and crappy conditions too. We're not relying on putting the ball up in the air 50 times. We're not relying on receivers having to run these routes. We're relying on pounding the shit out of the ball. We're relying on Daniel Jones making the right decisions, and that means tucking it down and running, so be it. So I think this team is built that if it's a windy game in January, or it's 43 and rain, or maybe even some snow, I don't think that's going to impact this team as much as some other ones or the way they're constructed.
I think.
I mean, if we play and more home field things, I mean, if we play in LA, for example, we play the Rams, there's probably going to be 40% Giant fans at that place, right? That's not a home field advantage.
Yeah, but I think if we had to play at the Link, it would be horrible.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
that's the question, right? Jeez. I mean, yeah, there's very specific things, but I think generally speaking, playoff atmosphere, I think playing at home would be a huge thing. But
we're talking about, are we a legitimate playoff team?
I think we are. And at this point, we have to think about the fact that we're going to be watching. At this point, seriously, are you booking a vacation anytime around the first week of the playoffs?
Everything is canceled until the playoffs.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, we have to think like that. So like, they are a playoff team, whether we like it or not. Whether they belong or not.
If anybody doesn't like the fact we're a playoff team, just turn the show on.
I'm sure there would be someone. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, they are. They're a playoff team, and I think they belong because they can win any one game.
They are capable of being a playoff team. I think they've proven to. Again, there's still a long way to go. We got this injury situation. Let's see how this kind of plays out. But if the season ended right now, they're a playoff team.
Yes, it could still go sideways. It would be. I don't know. It'd be pretty weird if it did, but we'll see.
My last take with that is okay. I was gonna say I think it would be situations beyond their control. I think it'd be a rash of injuries keep going. I don't think all of a sudden Daniel Jones is just gonna go completely south, unless teams start figuring out and out scheming our coaching staff too. Let's see how that plays out.
You know what? So here's the thing. I don't know how well that's going to go for people because I can't tell if they're just installing the playbook a little bit at a time or if they're just running off the cuff a little bit or if they are doing this deliberately or situationally based on the team. But this week it really and like the last couple weeks it felt like they're unleashing the real rushing attack in the second half. Mm-hmm. It feels like they are intentionally pulling punches in the first half, and it feels like, and I say this only because I was listening to a Jaguars podcast this morning, and I was thinking about it because I rewatched the game last night, and I was taking like really detailed notes about what they did on offense because I thought it was really interesting that we came out throwing so much, right? I mean, the whole first half we were really throwing a lot, and the more I looked into it, drive by drive, it looks like Mike Kafka likes to lean on one thing each time that drive. And the next drive, even if that all worked, something else. He's going to lean on something else this time. He's going to keep moving it around. So there's no really set identity. Like we always say all the time, this is a run-first team. And it's true that the run is definitely the strength behind this team. But you can't just scheme that way. Because I think... And listening to this podcast is like, oh, yeah, we held Saquon in check in the first half. But did they? Not really. Yeah. We didn't really try. I mean, it looked like all of that was a setup to just completely flip the script in the second half and zone read the absolute shit out of them. And Daniel Jones they have really gotten his, like, ball faking down to a really threatening level. Because, I mean, like, I've still seen guys do better than him. Some guys are really insane. But he's faking out the camera guy at this point regularly. And, you know, I don't know. I think this coaching staff is even more creative than we're giving them, or I guess that we know of. I could just be saying that and it maybe happened here and wasn't intentional. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much of it is just, and that's going to be the ultimate question when they're evaluating the roster, in the offseason is how much is it is just master chess players moving pieces around the board and how much is it the pieces themselves? Because, again, if you just look on paper at who is playing, you look on paper at this receiving core, you look on paper who's blocking for them right now. You look at the quarterback even on paper. They should not be, controlling time possession. They should not be controlling, you know, they're not how many punts a game are they averaging? Not many, right? They're hardly ever punting. It's
Yeah, I don't know.
doesn't seem like it.
It's in clusters. I mean, they've been a second half team, so I don't know what to tell you. It's always gonna feel like we're punting on every down, and then second half comes and we're not punting at all. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It probably evens out to about average, but like I said, like it's in clusters, so it's almost like they're figuring shit out, and then just
Right.
they figured it out now. Now they're just gonna score on every drive.
And like I said, they didn't have 1 3 and out the entire game. That's pretty impressive.
That is damn impressive. I didn't have that note. Offense. I do want to. I don't have any other offensive stars to hand out other than Daniel Jones.
I do.
Daniel Jones, by the way, was 19 of 30 with like 5 drops at least for 202 yards, a touchdown. He did have one horrendous interception that was called back due to penalty that had nothing to do with the interception.
Right.
But you know what? You can get stars with a mistake on this grading scale because otherwise no one would get any. He also had 11 rushes for 107 yards and a touchdown. Give me your star.
My star goes to the entire offensive line. And just the fact that you're losing, we lost 2 starters and, a de facto offensive lineman in Bellinger, the tight end. And doesn't even feel like they missed a beat at all. I mean, like you were saying, in the second half, it's like they unleashed Saquon Barkley. They unleashed the running game. And you're doing that with, again, listen to this show, the episodes we did all offseason, and our fears of the offensive line, our fears, the interior of the offensive line. We know we got with the tackles, but we were still concerned. We were so concerned about depth. We were concerned about all these things. And for the fact that it didn't feel like a beat was missed in this game when both of these guys went down early, that's a tribute to the entire line. So they all get a star from me.
I actually had to check. I kept thinking wait, did Ben Bredesen come back out there? Not that Josh Azudu was playing great because I was focused on him, but then as I got caught up in the game, I kept forgetting. They really did, and not for nothing. Before all the, I guess during the injuries, Ben Bredesen got hurt kind of early. Daniel Jones was throwing some fucking pockets. Yeah. He was not on the run. He was not being rolled out. This was an adult offense, an adult quarterback dropping back in an adult pocket, protected by adult offensive linemen. There was no training wheels on this shit. Not at all. This was a straight back offense, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, his decision making for running was not predicated by he had to run to save his life. It was just smart decisions. Can I give a fart now while we're still talking on offense?
On offense, go for it. I have a couple.
I'm gonna give a fart. I know he's having a fantastic year and he's probably comeback player of the year, but Saquon Barkley gets a fart for poor clock management, I could say, at the end of the game.
Go ahead.
How many times did he go out of bounds running in that final time we had the ball? 3 times? 3 times?
3 times he failed to get out of bounds.
You got to know, the situation. You got to stay in bounds in that. You got to end this game. We are a team that's trying to shorten games to begin with, the way we run our offense and everything. You just have to have better awareness. And again, this isn't a stinky fart. This is not a, super loud that the neighbor's going to hear the fart, but a little bit of a squeak. And Saquon just has to be better than that.
Dude, this was infuriating. No. This is a fart for real. This was this game almost this game almost ended in a loss. It was down to 1 yard.
Yeah.
And we would be having a very different podcast right now where we would be bitching and moaning about
it'd be diarrhea fest.
Wait. No, seriously, hang on. We would be having a full conversation about the bullshit Leonard Williams roughing the passer penalty that took some minor, I don't know, like 10, 11-yard gain, added 15 yards to it, and put them in legitimate striking distance with only like 2 shots at the end zone, maybe 3 shots at the end zone. That was we would be having a whole conversation about that. That whole situation on defense didn't need to happen. That's how serious and grievous of a mistake this is. Saquon Barkley, I would give him a if he made the one mistake, right? He would be getting a star in this game. He made the 2 mistakes. He has now taken himself out of star contention. 3 mistakes, he's now in the fart territory. And I'm sorry, but because they actually almost lost on that play, he gets the fart. It is absolutely legitimate. Let me put it this way. I did the math. If he got a bounce on all 3 of those, the clock would have been going down as they kicked the 4th down field goal. Doesn't matter if it goes in or out. It ends the game. They never would have gotten the ball on defense. I did the math. So every time he did that, he went out of bounds on the first one, and he's smacking his helmet like, oh, duh. But then he just went back and did it again. And then he's smacking his helmet. I don't want to hear it. And then the third one, it was pretty clear that he was already going to go out of bounds and then remembered and then tried to slide, and the officials ended up ruling against it. So he screwed everything up. That entire ending drive didn't need to happen. That was entirely on Saquon Barkley. And, if my math is wrong and that whatever, then that's kind of a pedantic point. But call me out on it. I'm pretty sure I'm right, though.
I was going to save this fart when we talked on defense, but since you brought it up, I'm going to give another fart. This is to the NFL and the officials in this league. We're out of control with protecting these quarterbacks. That roughing the quarterback, that roughing the passer call, that's not roughing the passer.
Well, there were 2 bad ones.
Can we play the fucking game, please? I understand it's a judgment call. It's not whether he's inbounds or out of bounds. It's judgment. But let's use judgment and let's use common sense.
Err on the side of the caution does not mean just throw a fucking flag. That's not erring on the side of caution. That's using no judgment whatsoever.
I mean, between roughing the passer and just calling pass interference, it's getting, these games are becoming a little unbearable to watch, and it sucks the excitement out of it, and it sucks the actual play out of it. It's like we're not playing the game anymore. We're having officials dictate based upon their interpretations, and it's a problem. And I'm getting tired of it, and a lot of people are getting tired of it too. We all want healthy quarterbacks. We know what happens when we have to have backups play and third string quarterbacks. But at the same time, if you're trying to kill a butterfly with a hammer, you're not doing any good for anybody. Let them play.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually have the officials on here with a fart, and mainly because, I guess I should have. They were just bad all over. I don't think this was like a biased game. This was just nonsense.
No, that's not biased. I
also, there was a play to piggyback on what we were talking about last week. There was a play the Giants had where they picked up a first down with Matt Breida, I think on like a jet sweep on 3rd down. Critical play. Play clock was at 0.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, that is it. Like, how I said, like, we talk about these roughing the passer penalties. They're coming up all the time. Like, the play clock is an every down fucking thing. That legitimately happens at least once per game.
Yeah, I found myself yelling at something. Yeah. In the game yesterday also, I'm thinking, like, here we go again. We just talked about this.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think it's biased. I mean, some people are like, oh, they're biased against us. It's like, do you really think the NFL is biased for Jacksonville over the Giants? Come on. There is no bias. It's just
shitty officiating.
It's bad calling. It's bad officiating. And the officials don't have the repercussions like other, players do or anybody else in life. They just, they're protected, and maybe they're reprimanded behind closed doors or whatever, but we don't know about it. So do a better job, please.
I have one more fart to hand out on offense. I know we kind of deviated from offense, but
That's
real
fine.
Quick, Marcus Johnson could not have been more useless in this game.
Ugh.
3 drops on 3 targets, and like 2 of them were major. One was on a 1st and 20 after a holding call. He was about 18 yards downfield, just dropped it.
We might as well just have tackle eligible and just have offensive linemen go out there.
No, I mean, what sucks is that he's been more money. He's been more clutch the last 2 weeks. limited role, obviously, guy we got off the street. He's clearly an off the street guy, but he came up clutch when we needed. But this was a worthless day for him. He also had an OPI on a Wandale penalty. I think he dropped the ball anyway. It doesn't matter. But he still got a fucking OPI in the penalty. And then the big one, of course, was the 4th and 2 from like the 5 or whatever, which is, if it wasn't a touchdown, it was automatically a first down.
Right.
Just absolutely killed the first drive out of the first half. Maybe we should be thanking him.
Was that the one that called Daniel Jones to start screaming it?
Yeah, that's when he flipped out. So maybe that was the eggshell cracking. That was that moment. Thanks, Marcus Johnson. You still get a fart anyway. Speaking of farts, the defense had a pretty rough game. Give me your overall thoughts. What did you think? I mean, like I said, this was a difficult one because they couldn't just – the best shot they had was to put the ball in a rookie's hands and make him win it, but he was also the first overall pick. So, I mean, that's not really – it's not really pressing a huge advantage. So what do you think?
Yeah, it felt a little bend don't breakish a little bit. I thought they'd try to put more pressure on Lawrence. I thought they'd try to disrupt him more, and I didn't see that much. I mean, he's a talented guy. I think this guy is going to be an all-pro at some point. You know, everybody's so quick with, you know, the Justin Herberts and you know, the Josh Allens, but he's in that conference also, and he's going to be damn good. I think when, you know, as this team matures around him, he gets more weapons around him, he's going to be really, really good. You know, I have 1 star I did give in this. I gave it to Fabian Moreau because he made the play of the game. He saved the game. And
he was money on that final drive.
Yeah. I mean, to me, my stars and farts are really starting to evolve more into individual moments and the importance of those moments. Overall, like, oh, he had a great game. I get this. But to me, you know, that's the biggest play of the game. Again, that's, I said it earlier. You lose this game, and you have a whole narrative for this team, both media, league perception, and also in that building. And, you know, it seemed like a relatively simple play, but I've seen more guys blow one-on-ones like that, and he just stoned him right before the line. And then
we see cornerbacks dog that tackle routinely.
Do you think Deion Sanders would ever make a tackle like that?
Isn't there like a famous image of him struggling to make that tackle at Florida State and Miami?
The bitch never tackled anybody ever. So, I mean, it seems easy enough, a simple enough task. Guy in front of you tackle. Corners don't tackle. And he did. So.
Well, I mean, I think that whole drive was insane.
Yeah.
So down the line there, I have Fabian Moreau pick, but hands to the face on Belton. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that was also the hands to the face call on Belton. Not that it was a bad call, but, like, Evan Ingram really just kind of, like, in his initial move out of his stance, he just literally ran face first into Dane Belton's outstretched hand. Mm-hmm. Like, he was just standing like this, and Evan Ingram ran face first into his hand. And,
right.
So it's like I can't even get mad at Dane Belton at that. I want to, because it erased what would have been a sick game-ending play right there. Just threw to a wide-open Fabian Moreau. But then he had a pass breakup on the next play. Then there was a false start, but also a pass breakup on Fabian Moreau. I mean, that whole drive, he was all over the place. The only thing, he gave up the one pass to Marvin Jones, which was just like an insane catch, like behind his head. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. The way the defense is playing collectively as a unit, where it's not individual play. Like in the past, when we were kind of giving this stuff out in like a Tampa 2 defense, we were seeing like one defensive end was getting some sacks, or maybe, you know, had some critical, you know, run stops. Now they're playing so much like a group. It's coming up in the who stepped up at the most opportune moment.
Right.
Otherwise, I thought the defense played pretty badly. Like you said, it was a little bend-o breaky, but I was shitting bricks during that final drive because I was pissed that we were putting time on the clock. I texted you. I was freaking out.
And if you guys don't know, we really don't communicate that much during a game.
Well, also, I don't look at Twitter during the game because, like, there's like delays on streaming services. Sometimes people
Yeah.
see things before. I don't look at anything. I can't have my phone near me. I
But
don't
we,
tweet much during the game for that reason
we
unless I'm at the game. But we don't
yeah, we
talk.
don't talk that much during game because we want to keep these shows kind of fresh with our thoughts, so we're not influencing each other in anything. So we'll just have like a couple like a wow or something. But when we're not at the game together, we really don't talk that much. So for him to like to say something was like, oh boy, something's up.
I'm gonna
This is
read
getting the wrath of the
the
Grump.
actual text was actually pretty funny. This is how you know I was losing my mind because my autocorrect caught me 3 times. Do I want to read in all caps? I have, why does this stupid ass keep going out of boobs? And
Yeah.
then right after that I said boobs again, and then in all caps I wrote bounds. But yeah, I was absolutely losing my mind. I was like, I have no confidence in this defense to shut down one drive from this offense. Like, this is horrible that's happening right now. I was praying for him to just at this point break one and just take it the distance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I had no confidence that we were going to stop that. We were very bend don't breaky. I didn't like it. I have a fart to hand out in particular, and it's to Darnay Holmes. Again, we're talking about moments. Darnay Holmes lost leverage, I think, on the first play coming out of halftime and gave up a 50-yard run to Travis Etienne.
Right.
It was the one. I mean, we weren't doing great against the run all game, but that was the one gash that we couldn't let happen, and it was a stupid fucking way. It wasn't a broken tackle or anything like that. It was getting greedy. It was jumping a gap instead of keeping your outside contained. So Darnay Holmes got a good. There you go, fart. That's kind of a wrap on this game. You got any other notes?
I have 2 little quick notes. Another fart is kind of to Fox. I understand that the Giants, before the season started, were not going to be a marquee team. We wouldn't be on prime time that much. But now that we're 6-1, can we get bumped up from the 5th string announcers? I mean, that was a rough listen. And I know this is Grump and I both mentioned it's the first time we're actually on our couches watching a game this year. So we're not subjected to homogenized national broadcasts. But Jesus, Grump and I do this show as a hobby, part-time, because we're fans. We don't get paid. We don't have sponsors, none of that. And I can say with confidence, we both know more than the color commentator of that game yesterday. Learn the game. Learn the teams. It's your job. Know what's going on. Don't give me the same generic stories about, this team, about that everybody who knows football. I mean, most people who are watching fucking Giants, Jaguars, week 7, pretty good chance they've been following this team along all week, whether it's on Twitter, podcasts, whatever publication and stuff. And I just, hopefully, the game gets flexed later on in the year, we become a night game, we get better announcers, and next year we get, the game of the week and stuff. But I just can't take these announcers, how bad they are. My other thing to you, Grump, before we go is, I have a note for coaching decisions. We went for it, and I'm trying to get the exact situation. What was your take at the time instead of kicking the field goal, going for it?
At the time, I was thinking we were rolling. We should go with it. That was the. Let me just double check this.
Yeah.
That was the first drive we had coming out of halftime. We're always a halftime team. We clearly had something going there. I was thinking go for it there. But also I can see wanting to go for the field goal, but I think, I don't know. I was on team go for it because of where you are, and clearly what happened there is we held them to a 3 and out inside their own end zone anyway. So
the analytics are basically dead even. Go for it. They said it was the tiniest slight advantage for kicking the field goal. I would have personally kicked the field goal there. I just think points are going to be kind of hard to come by in a game like this. And we're on the road. I think I would have kicked. We have a good kicker. So, I mean, again, nothing that's certainly fart worthy of a decision or not, but
Yeah, you're not calling for heads.
no, I'm just curious what you were thinking.
No, I was fine with it. I
Yeah.
was team go for it, but also if we kick the field goal, I'd be like, nah, really? I wasn't gonna get that mad about it.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, this is like a team of momentum and stuff like that. So I'm also feeling it. I'm not generally that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to feel a little bit there.
Gotcha.
One other coaching note, I would say we've been pretty praiseworthy on their ability to handle penalties. This was a bad one, but I think also they were playing with a lot of backups. So and also this officiating was garbage.
Yeah. Let's see if it's a trend or just an anomaly. But overall, this team is a lot cleaner than. Now, as part of my preamble earlier was.
Oh yeah.
Being clean is going to help this team in a lot of ways, and yeah.
So let's go around the division really quick. Philly had a bye week. Washington beat Green Bay. All right. So I've two questions for you. It's a two-part question, actually. So Washington had 17 unanswered points between the second and third quarter. And it felt like, to me, I just watched like a brief highlights through it. Green Bay's only scoring the second half came on like a lot of like insane athletic plays that are very flashy, grab-worthy. But Washington just scored points the old-fashioned way. Like, they just moved. So, like, is Green Bay bad, or is Taylor Heineke better than Carson Wentz? Like, what do you think?
Taylor Heineke might be a Ryan Fitzpatrick, where when you bring him in for a game or two, he does well, but his shelf life isn't that good the longer he plays. Because think about it. When was that? 3 years ago? He was in that playoff game against Tampa Bay.
It was only 2 years ago.
Only 2 years ago?
First year. Yeah. They backed into the playoffs, and we got axed
It was
out.
that game, so it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then that throws my theory off. I was going to say, I thought it was a little longer than 2 years ago, and it's like, well, why is he still a backup with Washington?
I think he's just all gamer and no attributes. Like, I think he's a smart guy who can step up in big moments. Like, he's a man, but he's just not very, like, he's not going to be able to sustain long wins, I don't think, because
he's the definition of a backup what you want.
Yeah,
somebody who's going to steady the ship for a couple of games, waiting for your quarterback to come back.
So is that better than Carson Wentz then? What do you think? Or is Green Bay just in a free fall right now?
I think there's something going on with Green Bay. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some coaching changes or something that Aaron Rodgers is going to do.
If there's one mid-season retirement between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, which one are you taking?
Oh, Tom Brady.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I
remember
I remember.
My prediction at the beginning of the year was Tampa Bay and Dallas wouldn't make the playoffs, and I thought the Tampa Bay side. I just thought that the Tom Brady thing, a guy who takes time off in the middle of for a guy that is so 150% focused on football, taking time off during training camp, doesn't practice on Wednesdays, just doesn't seem to be. Obviously he's got personal stuff going on. Football doesn't seem to be number one in his life. When you're 45 years old, you've won 7 Super Bowls. To me, it's almost like every day I'm expecting to see an alert saying Tom Brady announced that he's retired effective immediately.
I could see Aaron Rodgers doing it just because I feel like he's weird lately. And just like I could see him just being like, surprise, I don't give a fuck anymore. You know what I mean? He's got that face.
Well, as for Aaron Rodgers, I don't think they're bad just because they're a bad football team. I think there's something going on with him in the team. I think he's such a dick that I think it's probably, this is my guess, that it's finally catching up to him in that locker room. And
he needs a change of scenery.
Something is going on because that team has talent. That team, remember, 3 weeks ago, we were shocked we beat this team. We were like, well, they've beaten a playoff team for sure. They have lost to the Jets, the Giants, and Washington in 3 weeks. That's not a murderer's row. So what happens when they play Minnesota? What happens when they play, because I'm sure they're on primetime games 4 or 5 times the rest of the year playing good teams. What happens in those games?
Well, I'm going to throw one more at you. Dallas beat Detroit 24-6, but don't just look at that score.
No, it's close.
I urge you to watch that game. It was basically a 10-10 game in the fourth. Detroit fumbled on the 1 yard line. Otherwise, it would have been 10-10. And then after that, it was just a turnover fest for Detroit. Like, they literally just handing the ball to Dallas players at that point. Literally handing them to them. So that was actually a really close game. My question to you now is Dallas worse with Dak?
No. We said this last week. No. I just think...
I don't think so either, but I did not expect that game that I watched.
I think they're, for the talent level they have, I think their wins have been kind of smoke and mirrory. I mean, they went undefeated with a backup quarterback, but, nothing they've done this year has been entirely impressive. I mean, is their most impressive win this year against us?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think it might be.
I don't know.
They lost.
Well, I mean, every single win is impressive if you're playing with your backup quarterback. What the hell are you talking about?
No, I just overall as a team. I mean, you just asked me the question: are they better with Cooper Rush or Dak Prescott?
Well,
so we're saying it's that close.
But I mean, but you asked me what's their most impressive win. I don't even know how to grade that. If it's their backup quarterback, every win he didn't lose, did he? He lost one game.
Yeah,
he only lost one game.
Yeah, but I just don't think they're that impressive of a team.
Oh, okay. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's gonna do it for this episode. We will be back. We might be back, maybe with a guest.
Ooh.
Maybe. But we will be previewing the last game before the bye. That is the Seattle Seahawks game, which is an away game, and that will be there for you to listen to first thing in the morning, Friday morning at 9:30 on YouTube, and even earlier than that on audio streaming services like SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes, things like that. So you guys know the drill, and we will see you all next time. Go Giants!